In this episode, we journey into the deep, twisted mind of a serial killer. But let's be sure to proceed with caution, and whatever you do, don't piss this guy off. This is the torrid tale of the consequences of having no regard for human life. When an insoluble appetite for sex, secrets, and blood-curdling screams of fear is what drives you again and again and again. Remember, when you're looking hard enough for trouble, you sure will find it. Let's get into the case of Donald Henry Gaskins right now on Love and Murder. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Love and Murder, the weekly true crime podcast discussing relationships gone terribly wrong. And when I say terribly wrong, how wrong do I mean?
Dead wrong, Ky. I need a bullhorn to say that. I think I'm going to try that next week. Dead wrong. I need an echo. Make sense. Oh, no, I'm going to use my echo next week. You know, I have an echo microphone. Let's not. Is that a bit much?
No. Yes, too much.
Okay.
Anyways, I am your host, Ky. And thanks to one of our amazing listeners, she's actually in our exclusive Patreon group. Her name is Stacy. I have a list of adjectives to describe Char, so I'm going to use them. I'm going to use one from each line every single episode until we get to the whys.
Okay.
So I am your host, Ky, along with my adorable, abundant, active co-host.
I'm scared about the active part. I can be actively robbing a bank, or I can be sexually active. I don't know.
What kind of active is it? Stacy, you need to tell us what kind of active she is. But I do want to give Stacy a shout out. Thank you so much for all of these words, because she knows I'm struggling. She knows I struggle every episode.
Yeah, to come up with something unique.
Yes.
Because there's so much that Char has to offer the world.
Oh, good Lord. Anyway, this is Char. Applause, 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 applause.
Hello, everyone. Oh, God. Hello. Autographs in the back. Autographs in the
Lord.
back.
Only like the I don't know. I'm going to stop with that joke. I was trying to make a joke, but it just got lost.
It just got all jumbled, huh?
Yeah, it's
I know
gone.
Most people get tongue-tied in my presence, Ky. It's okay.
Oh,
it wouldn't be the first time.
Lord.
It wouldn't be the first time.
You know what it is? All right. Let's say what it is then. Or what Char's trying to allude to what it is. She posted a picture basically of her big bum. And I'm just like, good googa mooga, your butt is huge. And so she's like, yeah, you're getting starstruck, Ky, aren't you?
Actually, it was a story with a Jay-Z song, Show Me What You Got, Little Mama. I'm not a little mama, though, with that butt, no. So, yeah, it was a story. And it was actually honestly, a TikTok.
I gotta say this. I am hating. I wish my butt was that big, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm happy in my skin.
Cranberry leggings that made it like really, extenuated. Like it's cranberry, ocean spray.
All right. This is becoming the Char show. Our actual show discusses true crime cases told in the form of a story with mystery, suspense, and just a little bit of humor sprinkled on top. But what now?
But never at the expense of the victims. It's only America's, the world's dumbest criminals. The world's dumbest criminals is who we're laughing at. So please know that, listeners, that's always the dumbest criminals ever. That's it. We don't laugh at the victims. We don't.
Download Good Pods and subscribe to Love and Murder over there, as well as check out other indie podcasts. Good Pods is good for both iOS and Android. You can go to Good Pods and listen to all other podcasts, including ours. Tonight, we're still not on our regularly scheduled program, so that we can give you one more insight into our exclusive Patreon group. We are doing Serial Killer Corner, part of the bonus content we offer in our exclusive group. In this episode, we're going to tell you the tale of a depraved serial killer. Some of you might have heard of him, and some of you might have not. But first, I'm going to give you my weekly reminder to listen to our last episode, which was another look into our Patreon group, the Crazy Crime Roundup. Two couples who clearly shouldn't have had children, a man who liked a specific type of woman, and another man who was over both of his exes. Listen to Patreon preview, Crazy Crime Roundup, episode number 56. And in our exclusive community that I keep mentioning, we have a ton of bonus episodes currently streaming. We currently have our episodes about the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial, which actually our third episode is about to come out after I posted about the verdict. So it's kind of like jumbled up, but still we have the episode coming out. We added a bunch of evidence that also helped to build the final verdict. So if you go over there, you'll see the evidence. You don't have to search all over the web and find the evidence. It's right there. So we have all of that, just crazy stuff like also, what was Amber Heard writing? So we have that in there. So you'll see what was Amber Heard writing. Every time you looked at her, she was writing something.
Inquiry
Johnny Depp would say something, she would write something. What was she actually writing? So we actually have that in there. These bonuses were actually done with our guest host Logic. It was Ky and Logic, not Ky and Char as it normally is. Because Char brought up the topic, but then she just ghosted me. But it's all right.
Peace, I'm out.
All right. Yes, she did.
For like 3 weeks on that same topic, I was never around except for the first time. And we needed to go get more information, remember? There's just so much to that case.
Yes, definitely.
I'm really curious to see how it wrapped up, Ky. So thanks for covering that yourself and Logic. So.
Yes, even though I had no interest in it. We have an episode with questions for our groups, like what would you do if your stepdaughter walked around naked in front of her dad? And how do you feel about a bride kicking her hot friend out of the wedding? Because for the simple fact that she was too beautiful. Can you be too beautiful to be kicked out of a wedding? So join our Patreon during our summer sale for 50% off. Go to patreon.com/love and murder and subscribe using the much thanks secret tier. At the end of June, the sale would be over and the secret tier will disappear from public view. www.patreon.com/love and murder. Later on, I'll tell you more about what you get from joining this community. And now, on to the show. Donald Henry Gaskins, also known as Pee-wee, was born in Florence County, South Carolina on March 13th, 1933 to Eula Parrott, and his father is unknown. Donald got the name Pee-wee when he was younger because he was small and skinny, and his family just ended up giving him that name because of his size. And the kids, because of his size also, ended up teasing him and bullied him. And just for frame of reference, when he was an adult, he was only 5'4", or for our non-Americans, he was 1.63 meters, and he weighed 130 pounds, which is 59 kilos. Because of his small stature, they called him Pee-wee, and that's why he got the name. Imagine he's an adult 5'4", so that means when he was little, and he was only 130 pounds. Which means he was small.
Really small.
So, they teased him as a child, and, we'll find out what happens when he gets older. So he fought daily in school, and then he came home to where his stepdad constantly beat him. And his mother just neglected the crap out of him. Now, how neglectful was his mom? I'm glad you asked, Char. His mom didn't care about him, so much so that when he was 1, he drank a bottle of kerosene. Nobody was watching him. And a 1-year-old drank a bottle of kerosene. This would cause him to have periodic seizures that lasted until he was 3 years old when they finally stopped. Can you imagine that? Like, how many mothers do you know just leave poisonous stuff out, and then they're not even watching their 1-year-old long enough for them to get into the poisonous stuff? Like,
well, actually, when I was 2, I did drink some ammonia. I said pneumonia. Ammonia?
Yeah, but did your mom find you and rushed you to the hospital and cared for you, and she was basically pissing herself? Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Your
she told me it was
cared.
Terrifying. Yeah. But
exactly. Your mom cared.
The kids do get into things. Are you saying that kids get into things, but his mom just didn't
mom didn't care.
Help?
No, she didn't care.
Then how do you live? But how did he not, die at such a young age? You can't just drink kerosene.
He could have thrown it up.
Oh, gosh.
Now, this we're speculating. He could have thrown it up, any number of things that it didn't actually absorb into his system.
So he lived through it, but he had side effects because she was
until he
negligent.
Was
okay.
Exactly.
That's a shame.
Now, all of the bullying and abuse prompted him to quit school at only 11 years old. Throughout all of this, Pee-wee was still described as funny, friendly, and the life of the party.
Wow.
As he grew up, they added another adjective, which wasn't as... At the same age, he started working on cars at a garage near his house. Damn, imagine an 11-year-old getting a job working on cars.
I'm trying to picture sliding under the car at 11 years old. You know how you see the mechanics,
old, like you know
under
how
the car. Like, wait a minute,
are?
It's heavy.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Oh,
my
wow.
11-year-old was spoiled with like how many gaming systems, computers,
right?
And her mom as her own personal maid. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what my 11-year-old was doing at the time. Well, while working there, he met two boys named Danny and Marsh, who had both left school and was around the same age as him. They banded together and called themselves the Trouble Trio. Really, that's exactly what kids would do. Give themselves
exactly.
a name.
I know. I'm letting you know we're trouble because we're kids and we're going to get into trouble. Yeah.
I guess. Anyway, and then they decided to start going out and causing some mayhem. They actually picked up prostitutes at 11 years old?
Now, you know some prostitutes are desperate if they're having a sale and it's a slow night.
This girl's terrible. Sale. 2 for the price of 1. What kind of sale would a prostitute have?
if you have to
buy
give
1
that
hour,
money,
get the next hour half off.
You know, you got to get that money. It's like, hey, I'm giving a 3 for 1. You know, that happens. Lord. But children,
full price for fathers, half price for sons. Like, I'm still trying to figure out sales.
If it's Tuesday, only if it's Tuesday.
11-year-olds get in free on Tuesday. I don't want to say that. That's disgusting. No.
No, it's terrible that it happened. But if it really happened, it's just. You
it
joke
really
about
happened.
it because
That's
it's ridiculous. That's what the joke is. It's ridiculous.
That would be the joke because I can't believe somebody would be like, "Yeah, I'll take your money, you 11-year-old," and like,
oh my God. I can't even. No,
I can't picture it. Anyways, they picked up prostitutes, they robbed houses, and you ready, Char? You holding on to your butt? They even raped little boys. 11-year-olds.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No. They're worse than the Terrible Trio. Is that what they call it, the Terrible Trio?
That's what they called themselves, the Terrible Trio, yeah.
That's terrible. So it almost sounds like they're trying to find terrible things to, that was the point, right? But I just can't believe that, I don't know. It just bothers me to think that.
Of course it bothers you. It bothers me.
Because when you don't care about your children and you just let them run amok and you don't realize or care what they're getting into, that's what's going to happen. You know? It's like there's no... He dropped out of school.
I mean, he dropped out of school.
Just drop out of school.
He got
at 11
a job.
Years old.
His mom doesn't pay attention to him. His stepdad beats him. So it's like she just doesn't care. She's doing her own thing, and that's
himself.
it. Yeah, basically. And I don't know.
And his friends were in the same boat.
To get into trouble instead of going another route. But anyways, those little boys wouldn't tell because the Trouble Trio would threaten to kill them if basically they went to the police or if they told their parents or whatever. So the boys always kept quiet. One day, they, 11-year-old frickin' boys, were caught gang raping Marsh's little sister. So then Marsh's parent beat the boys bloody. Basically, they beat them till they bled as a punishment. Now, remember, this is like 1933, around that time. So they beat the boys till they bled.
And do you think that would be any different in 2022?
Of course.
It wouldn't be any different.
That's actually what I was going to say. That's how they did it back in the day. You know, the village raised your kids. But if this happened now, someone would definitely sue the parents, even though their child just participating in gang raping the other parent's child.
Yeah, they but would the parents would still do the same thing today, beat them until they bleed. The consequences are different.
There might be a parent that does that, that. However, there'd be another parent that said, "How dare you touch my child? I'm going to sue you." Even though your child just raped my child. And this will go to court. And it will be heard by a judge. And there's a possibility they might win. Even though that child just raped the other child.
Yeah, so back in the day, the village raises the child so no one's going to go report it because they're all in agreement. Because they realize, you've got to be punished for that.
Yeah, but honestly, if the village really raised the children, then even though Pee-wee's mom was just not even paying attention to him, some other people would have been paying attention to him and probably would have helped him out. So it seems like it's like they only raise them at certain points in time, like
exactly
by the time
when
they
it's
get bad,
very chaotic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So, I still don't agree with that. Anyways, a little while after that, Danny and Marsh moved away. But that didn't stop Pee-wee. He just kept robbing homes by himself. In 1946, when he was 13, so by this time, look, he's not even like close to being an adult. He's all of this and he's only just now turning 13.
That's crazy. He's a Lone Ranger. Like, I guess in his mind, he was a grown man because of what he has, he went through at home and had to really just raise himself. It's just sad.
I guess. Yeah. So in 1946, he was actually in the middle of robbing a home when the little girl who lived there caught him in the act. And she tried to stop him. She got an axe and she hit him with the axe. But instead of stopping, he turned, grabbed the axe from her, and, they started fighting. He got the axe away from her and basically hacked her in the head and the arm with it. And then he ran away from the scene of the crime. She ended up surviving, so she did not die, and told the police who did this to her. Then Pee-wee was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill. Remember I said his mom neglected him? I've said this like 5 times now. Well, let me give you another idea of just how much she didn't pay attention to him. While in court, when the judge called his name, Donald Gaskins, this was the first time in his life that he'd ever heard his real name. So, between now and as far back as he could remember, he didn't know his name was Donald Gaskins.
Yeah, I didn't even know his name was Donald Gaskins, I don't think.
That was literally the first sentence that I said.
Yeah, but after that, it was just Pee-wee, little Pee-wee, little Pee-wee. So, thought it was Pee-wee.
But can you imagine, somebody calls you, for instance, Char. Char, 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 Char. And only when you're 13, you find out, oh, my name's not really Char.
That's crazy.
At least, even though you have a nickname, your parents care enough to tell you your name. Good Lord.
Yeah.
So anyway, he didn't even find out his name was Donald Gaskins till he was 13. So the judge sent him to the South Carolina Industrial School for White Boys. Yes, for white boys in Florence. There's a school named that. Can you imagine?
So you get like a blood test going or something?
What do you mean a blood test? It's color of your skin. What are you talking about?
No, but I mean, you could be tanned or something. It's like, okay, you got to prove you're white. No,
Once again,
you're welcome.
It was just based on the visual test. Mm-hmm. What do they call it? The paper bag test or something like that?
No, that's for black people. The paper bag test. It's the opposite. It's way the other end of the spectrum.
My bad. But it was just visual. If you look white, I guess you're white. So anyway,
right.
He went to the South Carolina Industrial School for White Boys in Florence, where he was sentenced to stay until he turned 18. So that was 5 years. When he arrived to the reform school, and because of his small size, he was almost immediately attacked and raped. What is wrong with people?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's just a wild, crazy world. I mean, when you hear our cases.
And where are the adults that's supposed to be watching these children in the industrial school? Where are the adults?
I've always heard about, even foster homes and halfway houses and reform homes and schools. I've always heard that, the staff was very cold and uncaring and abusive. So this doesn't really surprise me that no one was really looking over, any real disciplinarian or someone who really cares to say, hey, don't do that. It's just like a run amok type of thing. I mean, haven't you ever heard that about institutions like that?
I've heard of it, but I don't know. Maybe it's more now that, because there are cameras and procedures and protocols and the adults can go to jail and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's more that they watch the children now. And I'm not saying it's 100% because I've also heard stories where they still don't. But it's just it just baffles me that they just
shocking,
you
really
can hear when a commotion is going on.
Yeah.
And you just turn your back to it. And I'm pretty sure he was screaming out, and you just didn't go and find out what was happening.
Well, they're not adults in prison, and someone dropped the soap, and it's like no one cares. These are children that are becoming adults.
And still no one cared. They didn't go check.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he spent the majority of his time in the reform school trading sex for protection and trying to escape also. So basically, he was just like what I hear the adults do. Like, this is what he went. I mean, I don't know if I don't know. I don't know how to feel.
We are talking about a kid, right? Like, this is
we are talking about a kid, but wow. I'm torn because him and his friends were raping little boys and raping little girls.
And then it turns on him, too.
Getting raped. Mm-hmm. And they're all children. And so...
It's so sad.
The whole really thing is just heinous. Like, it's just heinous. It's just a heinous circle. That's all that's going on there. So, anyways, at some point, he finally escaped from the school and got involved in a traveling carnival. There, he married a 13-year-old girl. Remember, he's 13, too. And they got married.
Well, back then, they did get married that early. People did. That's not unusual.
But after some time, he decided to take himself back to the school, the reform school, and finish his sentence. Now, it didn't say, like, what changed his mind. I really wonder what it was. But he decided to just go and finish his sentence at the school. So in 1951, when he turned 18, he was released from the school. He then started working on a tobacco plantation and continued with his illegal activities. So basically, he didn't even learn his lesson.
So much for reform.
Right? He and a partner would sell their services to local tobacco farmers. Their services was to burn their bars so that they could collect the insurance money. So basically, insurance fraud. That wasn't a job. That was their illegal services. Insurance fraud.
Okay. Yes, I've heard of that.
Eventually, he was caught because there were too many times when a fire would happen and Pee-wee's name would come up, or someone involved.
Around,
Exactly. There was like somewhere his name would come up.
Little somebody run past and, it's the same description, like, that was little Pee-wee.
Is that little Pee-wee? That looks like little Pee-wee. So one day, the daughter of the guy he worked for decided to ask him about barn fires. Bad idea. He had no answer. So, as a rebuttal, he busted her in the head with a hammer he had in his hand and split her skull. You can't just say mind your business?
I was going to say, that's a rebuttal? I mean,
like, okay.
Can I buy a vow or something? I'm tongue-tied over here.
If you were worried about her father finding out, I don't think the answer was busting his daughter's head open.
Because now her father's going to be all over the case and looking for you.
I don't know. If he was worried about being arrested, I don't think hitting somebody in the head with a hammer was the answer. Because it's like, I just don't understand the logic in that. I don't understand the logic in. Maybe he just wasn't thinking. I don't know. Anyways, of course, he was arrested. And he went to the South Carolina Penitentiary for 5 years for assault with a deadly weapon and attempted murder. The second of the same exact charge in his life, and he is only 18. Only 18.
That's so sad. There's just no hope for him in life. Because he's a lifer from such a young age, and he's back in the clinker. Is that what they call it? Mm-hmm. I would feel so annoyed. Like, I can't believe I put myself back in here. I'm not going to go through this again, am I? That's crazy.
Well, hope you're sitting down. While he was in prison, he committed his first murder, while also gaining the respect of his fellow inmates by killing the most feared man in the prison. Isn't that what they say in the movies? Find the biggest, scariest, craziest man in the prison and take him out? Yeah.
Exactly, because then, everybody...
Because then you're going to be considered the biggest, scariest, craziest person in the prison. Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's true, because that's what he did. When they asked him why he did it, he said it was in self-defense. But he still got an extra 3 years added onto his sentence for involuntary manslaughter. So they were like, yeah, whatever, 3 more years, screw that. I don't care if it was in self-defense. In 1955, his wife filed for divorce. What, you forgot he'd been married to a 13-year-old since he was 13?
No, I remember that with the circus, but I was thinking when he went back to the reform institution...
No, he didn't get a divorce.
No, but what was she doing?
She just left. She was just there.
What was she up to?
I guess that's why she filed for divorce. She wasn't there. She had to move on with her life because now, by this time, they're both 22. So maybe, she wanted to marry somebody else and she was already married. So,
or maybe she wanted a husband who was actually there.
Because right now he's out and he's still not with her.
Right.
Well, no, right now he's not out, but he was out at one time and he still didn't go to her. He was still doing his other stuff. So he heard that she filed for divorce, or she asked him, whatever. It basically got to him that she's filing for divorce, and he was like, F that. No wife of mine is divorcing me. And basically he hid in the back of a garbage truck, broke out of prison, and headed to Florida. However, once in Florida, he went back to work for a traveling carnival. Now I'm just wondering, like, what is it with him and these traveling carnivals? I don't know. I guess he was just like, screw that, not staying in here. You're not divorcing me. Oh, wait.
Pissed me off. I'm just going to go back to the circus. Like,
yeah, look, carnival. I'll just join this. What was I out of here for again? I don't know. But I just don't understand what's with him and these traveling carnivals.
Yeah, that's really
maybe
curiosity to me.
It's easy to get the job. Maybe they're just not asking, like looking into backgrounds. Maybe they paid him under the table. There has to be something as to why he keeps going. I'm curious
what he did though. Like what was his, position?
It didn't say. It would have
been interesting to know that.
Yeah, I mean, but it didn't say. Mm-hmm. Shortly after this, so I guess she was granted the divorce, and so shortly after that, he remarried. But that marriage only lasted 2 weeks. Then he got into a relationship with a woman named Betty Gates. Betty told Pee Wee that she had a brother that she needed to bail out of jail, and if he would just come with her to, for support, helping him get out of jail or whatever. And Pee Wee said sure, and they headed up to Tennessee, got her brother out, and headed back to Florida. Once in Florida, though, it became clear that this guy actually wasn't Betty's brother. Instead, it was her husband. And,
what?
Surprise, surprise, not only that, but he'd broken out of jail, and they just helped him do it.
Oh, you're kidding. There's no way this is true. This is like, listeners, even we can't make these things up, okay? Ky and I are very creative people.
I wish I was a writer like this.
But we're not that great. We cannot make this stuff. Can't make it up. We just can't make this stuff up.
After a short time, they were both rearrested, and Pee Wee received an extra 9-month sentence for aiding the escape of a prisoner. Now, I don't know why that's funny to me, but to me, it's hilarious because he didn't even know he was helping someone escape, but he got in trouble for it anyway. Like, sir, please, I seriously, she told me it was her brother, and they were like, yeah. Whatever, 9 more months for you.
I didn't know it was her husband. It was in prison. I really didn't know.
I didn't. She said it was her brother. I swear. And she said we were bailing him out. I was just going along for the ride. Yeah,
but look at his
tell
record.
It to the judge.
Who would believe Pee Wee, though? Look at his record.
Exactly.
It's like, put a trap on it. You're going back in.
And he's like, you are the judge. Sir, please. In August 1961, he was paroled and went back to South Carolina. Right after he got out, he said back to work and went right back to committing burglaries and selling stolen property. So it's like, what? Why? Just, are you even going to try anything else?
He never learned any lesson. Not one lesson.
Not one time.
Little Pee Wee learned. No.
So he stayed out of jail by working with a traveling minister as his driver and assistant. This actually helped him stealthily go from town to town, continuously robbing homes. In 1962, a year after he was released from prison, he was arrested again for, you'll never believe this, or maybe you will, based on his track record. Mm-hmm. Cliffhanger Ky's back with your reminder to subscribe to Love and Murder on whatever platform you love listening on so that you don't miss an episode, and we'd be ever so grateful if you would leave us a 5-star review on the platform of your choice. Also, come on over and join us on our exclusive L&M community on Patreon at www.patreon.com/loveandmurder. We actually have a summer sale going on right now. Once you become a subscriber, you get access to commercial-free episodes so you don't have to hear this particular interruption. Crazy Crime Corner, Love Obsessions, Serial Killer Corner, Relationship Advice, Ky Char's life stories, behind the scenes, and so much more. With our summer sale, you get almost everything we offer for one low price of only $5 a month, and it's normally $10 a month. To take advantage of this sale, go to www.patreon.com/loveandmurder and subscribe to the Much Thanks Secret tier. Once our summer sale is done, that tier will disappear from public view. We have so much fun over there, so come on and join us for only $5 a month until the end of June, when we switch gears back to our regular tiers. Don't miss out. www.patreon.com/loveandmurder and choose Much Thanks Secret tier. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, how about hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you always get news of new episodes. Now, back to the cliffhanger that evil Ky left you on. He was arrested for statutory rape of a 12-year-old girl. While awaiting his sentencing, Pee-wee left the state and fled to North Carolina in a stolen car. My question, though, is why was a known felon out of jail while awaiting sentencing? That's my question.
Well, they didn't say he escaped. I mean,
he was awaiting sentencing, and while awaiting sentencing, he was just like, screw it, I'm gonna jump in this stolen car and go to North Carolina.
So you could await sentence, obviously. Released on bail.
You could really be released on bail, or you could stay in jail. Right. And they let him out, even though this dude has been in jail since he was 11.
Yeah. So why did they let him out? Is the question.
So of course he did what he's going to do, and he left.
Of course, because there was no reform. Remember, he didn't learn a lesson ever in life. Ever.
So he went to North Carolina, where he met and married a 17-year-old. They then moved to Georgia. And at some point, she decided that she wanted to turn him in for statutory rape. So then he was arrested and went to Columbia Penitentiary for 8 years. He was then released Yes, girl.
He went back for 8 years?
Yes.
That's almost 10 years. Oh, wow. This case is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was released in November of 1968. And then he vowed that he would never return to prison again. After he got out, he moved to Sumter, South Carolina, and started working for a roofing company. Almost 1 year after he was released from prison in September 1969, he picked up a blonde female hitchhiker in North Carolina and propositioned her for sex. According to him, she laughed at him, which made him angry, so he pulled over and beat her unconscious. Then he raped her, sodomized her, tortured her, and then took her to a swamp. At the swamp, he weighted her body down so that it would sink. Mind you, she was still alive, so she drowned. No. Quote, "All I could think about is how I could do anything I wanted to her." End quote. He later stated in his memoirs. In November 1970, in Sumter, Pee-wee killed his own niece, Janice Kirby, who was 15 at the time, and her 17-year-old friend, Patricia Ann Alsbrook. According to him, he was pissed off at them for using drugs. So he decided the best course was not to talk to them. No, let's not sit down and have a rational conversation with these teenagers and educate them on not using drugs. No, that was not the course. Instead, he beat them to death. Others said that the actual reason he killed them was because he was trying to sexually assault them. I don't know what it is, but I more believe that one.
Yeah, exactly.
In March of 1971, Pee-wee poisoned a 20-year-old woman named Martha Ann Dix. He says it was because she was a drug dealer who supplied his niece and her friend drugs. And he was just, you don't do that.
He's so anti-drug.
Yes.
Do the right thing, kids. Live a healthy life.
Exactly. After he beat them to death, live a healthy life for the next 5 minutes before he beat them to death. And then he went out to find their supposed drug dealer. Mm-hmm. But others would actually allege that it was because she'd told Pee-wee that he was the father of her unborn child. Yes, you heard that correctly.
There's a twist.
He poisoned a pregnant woman who said the child was his. Good Lord, this dude is crazy.
Plot twist. Oh, I can't.
In June 1973, Pee-wee's friend Doreen Dempsey had been living with his other friend, Johnny Sellers, and his brother Carl Sellers. Remember those names, Johnny Sellers and his brother Carl Sellers, in North Charleston, South Carolina. They decided to bring her to Pee-wee's house in Prospect and leave her there to talk to him about staying for a short while she was pregnant. However, known to be an overt racist, Pee-wee became enraged when he found out she was pregnant with her second child from a black man. He decided he was going to teach her a lesson, so he raped her and then took her and her 2-year-old daughter to his backyard where he drowned them both in his pond. Oh, wait, did I say both? I meant to say he drowned all 3 of them, the mother, the 2-year-old, and the unborn baby. Now, obviously I blame him for this, but I also blame his friends for this. If you knew your friend was racist, why would you leave this woman on his doorstep?
Yeah.
That's my question. And if you tell me some crap about, I didn't think he would, slapped. Anyways.
Oops.
In June 1974, Pee-wee's friend Johnny Sellers, remember that name? I told you to remember that name from 1973, asked Pee-wee to pay him some money he owed him for the sale of a stolen boat. Instead, Pee-wee decided to kill him by shooting him in the back of the head. After this, he stabbed Johnny's girlfriend, who was 22-year-old Jessie Ruth Judy, to death because he thought she would have told the police about their criminal activities and the fact that, he just murdered her boyfriend. Honestly, I can't say that I feel sorry for Johnny. I know I should, but I can't say that I do. He got a mother, an unborn baby, and a 2-year-old killed. So, in February 1975, Pee-wee was paid $1,500 by Suzanne Kipler Owens and John Owens to murder 45-year-old Silas Barnweth Yates. They wanted him dead because of some kind of dispute. Now, forensics showed that he had been killed by a slit throat, but Pee-wee said he killed him with a, quote, karate chop to the neck. Yeah, I'm pretty sure forensics could tell the difference between a slit throat and one that had a karate chop on it. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure you could tell the difference. On April 10th, 1975, Pee-wee stabbed Diane Bellany to death and shot her boyfriend Avery Leroy Howard. She was the estranged wife of Walter Neely, who was one of Pee-wee's closest friends and someone who worked with him in the crime world. She was killed because she'd threatened to go to the police and tell them that Pee-wee was allowing teenagers to have sex in his house. Avery was killed because he'd asked for money to help pay his attorneys and legal fees after he was arrested for fraud and auto theft. So he said, hey, can I borrow $100? They were like, what? Good Lord.
Don't even ask. Don't ask Pee-wee anything. Never mind. Don't even ask Pee-wee the time of the day.
Don't ask him anything. Good Lord.
Because you can piss Pee-wee off really quickly.
At some point between April and October, Pee-wee murdered 13-year-old Kim Gaskins by stabbing her to death. He said he'd done this to stop her from telling police that he'd moved her from North Charleston and had been basically pimping her out for sex.
Oh, wow.
Not to mention that he himself was sexually assaulting her. So, you can't tell the cops that, I guess. On October 10th, 1975, Pee-wee murdered both Diane Bellamy's brothers. Remember Diane Bellamy? Well, he now murdered her brothers, 27-year-old Dennis Bellamy and 15-year-old John Henry Knight, by shooting them back-to-back in the back of their heads. Pee-wee had promised to pay Dennis for stolen guns, and when Dennis basically came to collect his money, Pee-wee said, I'm just going to give you your guns back and everything, whatever. So
but
come
I'm
on,
not
follow
your
me.
Money back.
Yeah, he said, come on, follow me into the woods behind the house. This is where I have the guns hidden, and I'll give them to you. But obviously, instead, he just murdered them, execution style, with the guns that he was going to give back to Dennis.
So then he can keep the guns and the money, is where his thoughts were.
That's what his thought process
I'm not
was.
parting with these guns or this here money. So, Ky, shouldn't he be about 50 by now, and he's still just running around on a killing spree across the country? Don't you think this is just
well, let's
really
see. He was born in 1933, and right now it's 1975. So no, he's 42.
No, but we're closer to the 80s, 1980s, 30.
I'm telling you, it's 1975. So right now he's 42.
Okay, well, anyway, he's not. He's 42. When are we ever going to grow up and mature and just? Don't you think this is
for
just...
the first time he killed somebody, Pee-wee had the respect of the people. Did you think he was going to stop?
No.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering.
Moving along. But I can't keep up with all Pee-wee's murders, though. I'm telling you, honestly, I tried, and I only have 2 hands. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you'll find out at the end how many. So, on November 14th, 1975, Pee-wee was finally arrested. After Kim Gaskins went missing, investigators started looking at Pee-wee, and after searching his home, he found some of Kim's clothing. Pee-wee was indicted for, quote, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, end quote. His friend and associate, Walter Neely, remember him, got picked up for questioning. During questioning, Walter got nervous and what did he do? Sang like a bird. The criminal steel cajones on this one. Good Lord, they were just questioning you. And he was like, I'll tell you everything. And he confessed to the police that he knew of Pee-wee's killing of Dennis Bellamy and Johnny Knight. He also told them that Pee-wee told him that he'd killed a bunch more people, and even ones listed as missing persons during the last 5 years. He even sort of knew where some of them were buried because Pee-wee kind of like generally pointed it out to him or told him or whatever. And then, on December 4th, 1975, Walter took police to some land near Pee-wee's house where they discovered the bodies of 8 of his victims: Johnny Sellers, Jessie Ruth Judy, Avery Leroy Howard, Diane Bellany Neely, John Henry Knight, Dennis Bellamy, Doreen Hope Dempsey, and her child. Whew.
Oh, that's despicable.
Yeah.
It's despicable.
But yeah, on April 27th, 1976, both Pee-wee and Walter were charged with 8 counts of murder. And Walter was like, what? I didn't do any of this. I just told you about it. And they were like, yeah, shut up. You're going down for 8 counts of murder. And then on May 24th, 1976, Pee-wee was tried for 1 count of murder for Dennis Bellamy and found guilty. On May 28th, 1976, he was sentenced to death and he confessed to the other 7 murders to avoid additional death sentences. He was committed to the high security block at South Carolina Correctional Institution, the same prison that he vowed he would never go back to. They threw him right back in there.
Oh, no.
They're like, remember this place, Pee-wee?
Yeah. Does this look a little familiar?
Exactly.
Does this soap look familiar?
On September 12th, 1982, Pee-wee killed again. 23-year-old Rudolph Tyner was on death row because he'd been convicted of robbing a convenience store and killing the store owners who were husband and wife. Rudolph was in the process of appealing his death sentence. Well, the store owner's son, Tony Simo, hired Pee-wee for $2,000 to kill Rudolph because, quote, the appeals process was taking too long. Pee-wee was able to secure plastic explosives. Now we're wondering how. How in the frick were you able to secure plastic explosive in prison in maximum security?
In exchange for ramen noodles, maybe? There's ways.
Anyways, he was able to secure plastic explosives with a blasting cap, a long wire, and a radio speaker so that he was able to design a fake intercom speaker. He gave it to Rudolph and asked him to put it to his ear at a particular time because, he was probably saying that they're trying to build this thing so that they could talk to each other and the guards wouldn't know or whatever. So he said, Rudolph, put this to your ear at this time. We're going to see if this works. So when Rudolph put it to his ear, Pee-wee plugged it in and detonated the bomb. And basically it just blew his head off. Pee-wee had tried to kill Rudolph on several other occasions by putting poison in his food, poison in his drink. But instead of dying, he just got sick and, still lived.
But why was he so against him again? I must have missed that. Why
he was hired to kill him because the store owner's son basically wanted him dead.
Oh.
So Rudolph, Pee-wee was like, sure, I'll do this. So anyways, he tried to kill him with poison first. That didn't work. So this is why he opted for the explosives. And after this, Pee-wee was named, quote, the meanest man in America. Pee-wee later said that, quote, the last thing that he heard was me laughing. Can you imagine that? Pee-wee was tried.
Figured this is okay.
What are you confused about?
How are you in prison and you're hired to put a hit on someone while you're in prison?
I mean, people can talk to you while you're in there. You're in there. The other person that they want dead. Listen, you're in there. The other person that they want dead is in there. So they ask you to kill him.
And so what did he get in exchange for this hit, though, to agree to it?
$2,000. Were you not listening?
No, I got so lost thinking, did he exchange ramen noodles for this? I have no idea. Like, are you serious? $2,000?
No, the guy gave him $2,000 to kill this guy.
Well, that goes a long way when you're behind bars, but that doesn't make it right. That makes it a horrible thing. That's horrific.
A lot back in 1982.
No, bars. I said it.
No, I was agreeing to you. Agreeing with you. Yeah.
Oh, but you mean literally our economy wise? Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then, so he was tried for Rudolph's murder and sentenced to death. Now, this was actually the first time in South Carolina's history that a white man was sentenced to death for the murder of a black man. Now, the store owner's son who hired Pee Wee to murder Rudolph, Tony Simo, was arrested and charged with murder. But he pleaded guilty and pled down to a lesser charge. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison and was paroled in 1986. So basically, he only served 4 of the 8 years. Now, if you thought this was the end, no.
And I did.
No. While on death row, Pee Wee claimed to have committed between 100 to 110 murders. He said that he murdered a 13-year-old named Margaret Catino, who was the daughter of South Carolina State Senator James Catino Jr. This was disputed as there was no evidence to support these claims. He also stated that throughout his life, he had feelings that forced him to do bad things, to break the law, and to murder. He called them, quote, the aggravated and bothersome feelings. Between 1969 and 1975, investigators had discovered the remains of girls and boys along the Carolina highways. Pee Wee said that he was the one who committed these murders and called them his, quote, weekend recreation. Although he claimed these murders, what are being called the coastal kills, none of this has ever been confirmed. Later on, in his memoirs, Pee Wee claimed to have committed these coastal kills every 6 weeks. But then he contradicts his claims in a later book by saying that, quote, he felt the overpowering need to seek out and commit a coastal kill by the 10th date of each calendar month. So that didn't, he said 2 different things. Basically, he said
every 6 weeks, and then he said by the 10th.
Yeah, every 6 weeks and the 10th date of each calendar month.
That's like once a month. Yeah. And then it's so it's
like, which one is it?
So that's why they couldn't convict. Well, he's convipeople, but they couldn't.
It's not about convicted. They couldn't say that this is true and this is not true.
Yeah, to close those cases because those people.
I don't think they
families.
Closed it. It was probably still open cold cases because they don't know who did it.
Well, that's what I said. To close the cases, they cannot do that. They're still open because the families, there's no justice because we didn't find out who did this. We really can't prove. You can't go by, an inmate or a prisoner saying, yeah, I did it. They could just be, just saying that for attention or whatever reason.
Exactly.
And the sad thing about it is, but when someone goes on death row and when they die, the truth will never come out. Well, that's not true because if it wasn't them, then maybe there's always a chance that you can find the killer.
You could find the killer. Yeah. Or somebody might come forward and say he actually did it. I saw him. Something like that. You never know. You never know. He also named 3 other murders that he classified to be among his, quote, serious murders. A black couple, he said, was named Eddie and Bertie Brown, aged 24 and 20. He claimed to have murdered them in 1972 and buried them, quote, behind the tenant house. However, this house was never precisely pinpointed. The third person was a 40-year-old man named Horace Jones, who he claimed he murdered in 1974. He also claimed to have murdered 3 people on the highway when their van broke down. He called Walter to drive the victim's van to his garage, repaint it, and sell it. Pee Wee stated in his memoirs that, quote, his process of rape, torture, and murder was a, quote, vision into the, quote, bothersome feelings he'd been experiencing throughout his life. He felt that he needed to satisfy these feelings, and that's why he turned to murder. He stated that he would keep his injured victim alive for days. There would be times he would even cannibalize their severed body parts and make them watch him eat the parts or join in eating the parts under threat of death.
No, that's all. I've got nothing. I know we can't go silent on the podcast, but
Good Lord.
I have never been totally speechless with any of our cases. But no, I've got nothing.
I know I'm laughing. I'm laughing at Char.
I think we should have like a moment of silence, you know?
Char is like, she has nothing to say. It's just amazing. Anyway, he claimed that he tried to keep them alive for as long as possible. He also confessed to killing his victims using different varieties of methods, including stabbing, strangling, suffocation, shooting, and mutilation. Also, whenever he killed men, he usually castrated them too. The issue with all of this, though, is there's no evidence to support any of these claims. The only murders that have like hard evidence are the 15 victims, as their bodies had been found and identified. In 1976, the Supreme Court overturned the death penalty, and Pee Wee's sentence was commuted to life in prison with 7 consecutive life sentences. However, in 1978, the death penalty was restored, which actually wouldn't have affected Pee Wee if he hadn't carried out that hit in 1982. During his last moments of life, Pee Wee worked with an author named Wilton Earl on a book entitled Final Truth that talked about the, quote, bothersome feelings he had and the murders he committed. The book was published in 1993. On September 6, 1991, the day of his execution, Pee Wee would slit his wrists in a bid to commit suicide. However, it didn't work. The guards caught him, sent him to the medical wing, bandaged him up, and took him right to the electric chair, bandage, wrist, and all. They were like, nope.
You have got to be kidding me. You know what? I do apologize, listeners. I'm laughing because that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. He tried to kill himself, and they're like, no, you can't do that.
And then took him to the death chair.
Like, you're gonna live. You're gonna live because then you're gonna suffer on our terms. Like,
you're gonna live to fry.
But too easy. What, slit your wrist? That's too easy. We want you to, fry, exactly. Oh, no. You know what? I hate to say this, but I kind of would prefer that he fried because it is too easy to bleed out, isn't it? If someone just slits their wrist,
he would have he would have just gone silently and painlessly,
just
like he would have fallen asleep.
Like,
exactly. Yeah. And they were like, "Nope, let's take him to the medical wing."
Oh no, you're gonna suffer, buddy. You're gonna suffer in some way, not nearly as much as your victims did, however.
So they strapped him to the electric chair, and his last words were, quote, "I let my lawyers talk for me. I'm ready to go." And he was electrocuted and died at 1:10 a.m. And that is the horrible, terrible, no good, very bad
extra
life
gory,
of Donald
extra
Henry Gaskins. What did you think about this episode, Char? What did you think of, like, I guess all the decisions he made, like, just from the time he was
decision.
It was literally always the same decision. Yes.
Yeah, just that I'm not going to think on this one,
ages.
People. Yeah, I'm just going to do whatever it feels like, and I just have a temper out of this world. Like, literally, his temper did not allow him to ever think clearly and make any conscious decision that, that a mature adult would make, or that someone that has any feelings. It's almost like he literally was just numb to human beings, in emotion at an early age. So you think he was
a psychopath? I don't think he was a psychopath. I don't think so.
You don't think so? How?
I don't think so, no.
How is it that you don't think so? I'm really curious.
I really don't think he was a psychopath. I think he had anger issues and...
A sociopath, then? Because he loved to be around people so that he can control them and then decide their fate.
Maybe sociopathic tendencies, yeah. Mm-hmm. But psychopath, I don't think he was a psychopath. Yeah. But yeah, I guess sociopath more suits it. He was crazy. Either way you go.
Oh, he was
That's
definitely
my diagnosis.
Crazy.
He was crazy. That's it. So
it didn't take an expert to figure that out at all. But what I don't understand is how is it that he could get out of prison so many times and then no one's after him looking for him when he would commit another murder?
There's a lot of stuff I didn't understand. How did he escape from prison
how you just
and stay gone for so long?
in the world?
And how was he able to commit? It was like every year he was committing murders. And according to him, every month he was committing murders. And it took so long to find him. Like, that's just insane to me.
Well, you know, forensics didn't come into play until the 80s, I believe. So he got away with a lot also because of our system. Forensics, you know, the forensic anthropology and all of that. It wasn't even like, okay, like if all this started, say, in the 90s up into the 2000s or even the early 90s until now, I think it would have been different. You see what I mean? Because we have surveillance, we have cell phones, right? And then we have a very, very, I don't know, not complex, but we have a very sophisticated, you know, technology now for forensics, you know, discoveries and all of that. I mean, even carbon dating wasn't out at certain times before when he first started all of this. And that, well, actually that, yeah. Especially when it comes to bones and teeth and all that.
I think even nowadays, depending on where he is and who he's dealing with, he could have still flown under the radar. Even with everything that we have, I think he could have still flown under the radar. You don't think so?
No, I just think that our technology is so great these days, especially in the last 30 years, 30, 40 years.
I'm not saying it would be primarily this. I'm saying there's 1 out of maybe 1,000 people that would be him. Under the radar.
Yeah, well, that's possible, yes.
It is possible,
because there's people like that now, and we won't find out for another 10, 15 years that they were on the killing spree.
Exactly.
You know, in the early 90s.
Exactly. So we want to hear what y'all think about this episode too, this crazy, crazy episode. And just so you know, this is the kind of episode you get in our exclusive Patreon group. Plus, you have access to a community to talk about it with. We do Serial Killer Corner in our Patreon group, so you just got a glimpse as to what kind of crazy, insane, heinous, and that's horrible.
Okay, we really need another word. So Ky and I are going to work on. I thought we had a new word.
You said asinine
a few weeks ago.
I don't know if I want to say asinine.
But you're not saying ass, so what does it matter?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't want to say the word asinine. I don't know. It doesn't really fit crazy crime to me. I don't know.
It fits crazy people when they do horrific things. You know,
heinous. I think the word heinous sounds better when you're discussing that.
But you know what?
This is something we discuss off air. We're sitting here having a whole conversation about this.
We're having a conversation about a more, I don't know, a word that's more intensely appropriate for someone that does such horrific things. But
heinous.
Like you said, there's a community over in our bonus. And if you guys, when you sign up, literally, you're going to want to talk about these types of cases with other people. You know, it really makes a difference because it's just so unbelievable.
Yep. And so you get access to Char and I. So you talk to other people in our Patreon group. You talk to Char and I. You get to know, I don't know if you want to know the research process or where I found out this information or whatever, you get that all in the Patreon group. So if you want more episodes like this one, take advantage of our summer sale by going to www.patreon.com/love-and-murder. Choose the Much Thanks secret tier and subscribe for half off our normal price. So you will get commercial-free episodes of Love and Murder, Crazy Crime Corner, Love Obsession, Serial Killer Corner like this one, relationship advice, getting to know the hosts, behind the scenes, and so much more. All of this for only $5 instead of the normal $10 a month. Now is the time to get in because at the end of June, our summer sale will end and that secret tier will disappear from public view. Now, if you like this episode, then head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and rate us 5 stars. You can also download Good Pods and rate us there too if you want. You can say whatever you want in the description, but what it does, it helps bring us up in the charts so others can find us just like you did. Don't forget to visit our Patreon to become an exclusive member of the L&M community. Like I said, you get commercial-free episodes, full-length episodes of Love and Murder, you get bonus content, all of the stuff that I mentioned before, and you get it under the summer sale of only $5 instead of our $10. So head on over to our Patreon. Follow us on social media at facebook.com/relationship crime, Instagram at Love Murder Podcast. Join our Facebook fan group by searching Love and Murder fan page in Google or Facebook, or by simply clicking in the link in the show notes below. Find our awesome merch by going to our website at www.murderandlove.com and clicking on our shop in the menu above. And the easy and free way to help us out is by simply sharing this episode. Hit that share button, share on your social media, share with your friends, share in an email. Just share it out. And we always want to end each show by reminding y'all that it is all love and no murder. Y'all. Thanks for joining us.
Be safe, guys.